Everybody, say hi to Amanda.
Hi, Amanda. Oh, I'm Amanda.
Everyone is sworn to secrecy on pain of death. Producer Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Back. Okay. Welcome to the RPGBOT.Podcast. I'm Randall James, and with me is Tyler Kamstra.
Hey, everybody.
And Ash Eli.
I will make a monument to death.
No. Too true. Too true.
Is that your character intro? Is that just like your choose the character screen?
Yeah, I tried to do a little intro that fits what we're talking about. It's not always successful, as this one was not. But, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, it was good. It was on topic.
What's really great is depending on how we spin the next 5 minutes, that's either going to be really weird or perfectly topical. And it's up to us to shape this now.
I mean, we're talking
we have
about
a special guest with us tonight.
Vecna, so I assume that it has
because I thought you were talking about our special guest, Amanda Hamon.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on. And I get to make dad jokes and laugh at dad jokes. What better situation, right?
Yeah.
If there was more death, there were more monuments and more death.
I got one. My favorite dad joke. Okay, you ready? Why did the blind man fall into the well?
Go on.
Because he couldn't see that well.
A classic.
That's fair. Ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Hamon. All right, Tyler, what's happening?
I'm very excited. We've been wanting to have Amanda Hamon on the podcast for a while. Tonight we're going to talk to Amanda because she's currently the lead designer on Vecna, Eve of Ruin, the major adventure coming from Wizards of the Coast this year. If you're not familiar with Amanda's work, her resume is very, very long.
Well, pause. You are familiar with Amanda's work, and now Tyler's going to tell you why.
Yeah, honestly. Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
okay, Amanda's resume...
It would be surprising if you weren't familiar with her work in some way to perform. Why are you listening to this podcast, then?
Everywhere, I'm like a spider monkey on your back. You play games, there I am, bam.
Honestly, spider that's monkey. True. Okay, so we're only going to hit the highlights because we literally run out of time on the podcast. Amanda has done a lot of work with Kobold Press, including on projects, including the original Deep Magic. She spent some time at Paizo, where she did a bunch of cool stuff. She was the co-creator for Starfinder, little RPG you may have heard of. She worked on a bunch of other great stuff, products for PF1, PF2, the adventure card game. If I have this right, Amanda, your most recent project at Paizo was the Lost Omens character guide and then the Mwangi Expanse. I don't actually know if I'm pronouncing Mwangi correctly. Do you know?
You are, yes.
Right.
At least that's how everybody internally said it, so... By virtue of that, you are correct.
Perfect.
Best kind.
Amanda also went back to Kobold Press for a little while after that, worked on Warlock Magazine, which was very popular, had a ton of great content, worked on the Scarlet Citadel campaign, Tome of Beasts 2, and then not long after Tome of Beasts 2, moved over to Wizards of the Coast, where she has worked on just some awesome adventures that we've loved a lot. Strixhaven, Curriculum of Chaos, Keys from the Golden Vault, Phandelver and Below, and now she is the lead designer on Vecna, Eve of Ruin. So, Amanda, we're very, very pleased to have you. We're very excited. We've loved all of your adventures so far.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, Tyler, your check is in the mail.
Gosh, I wish it worked that way. Look.
It doesn't. For those of you listening, don't take me seriously. I'm always ridiculous. Nothing is true.
The 360 PR folks do send me physical copies of the books, which I really, really enjoy.
Nice. You'd like it to stay that way, so I try not to ruin that for you, Tyler.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Beautiful. That's all we can ask for.
So let's jump right into the adventure, because I've got a ton of questions, and I don't want to keep you until midnight. Who is Vecna? What's his deal?
Vecna is a big old jerk face who has been around D&D.
Checks out.
All the way back in the 50-year history of D&D. He goes all the way back. Vecna originally appeared in OD&D in 1976 publication, in which Vecna himself is not mentioned as a person, but Vecna's hand and eye are listed as artifacts. And there was one line describing who Vecna was, and it was a long dead lich and of great power. And the only way that Vecna could affect you is if you put on the hand and the eye by doing gross things like carving it out with a spoon and chopping off your own hand. And therefore, Vecna has been around for a very long time, and the lore has been built on from there. So that original instance of the mention of Vecna was written by Brian Bluth. And I believe Gary Gygax famously said he had no idea what Brian was thinking when somebody asked him who Vecna was way back then. But since then was fleshed out in several instances. It was listed in the Dungeon Master's Guide for 2nd edition, which is probably his next biggest appearance, and actually listed as an NPC, as a character, as a villain. And his hand and eye were also listed as artifacts in there. And then during 2nd edition, Vecna as a villain in an adventure, as an antagonist, became a very big deal as a recurring protagonist in a series of published adventures that have my favorite pulp-adjacent titles that start with Vecna lives, ! Then goes to Vecna Reborn, and then ends with a very famous 2nd edition adventure, Die, Vecna, Die!
Yep. Beautiful.
Yeah, I love the titles.
So Vecna has been threatening people for all of D&D's 50-year history and has been written about a ton since his appearances in 2nd edition, and not a lot in 5th edition, a little bit hints, but we reclaim that old villainous glory by featuring him in this massive adventure that goes up to 20th level.
I love the idea of what you're describing. We have a big baddie who's really terrible. The only way that he can impact you is if you were to, for instance, replace your eye with his eye, or replace your hand with his hand. And somebody out there is like, you know what? I have an idea. It's going to be great.
In that classic player character sense of, let's do the thing that we should never, ever, ever actually do. That's the worst idea in the world. Let's do that.
Yeah. I bet we're going to get some cool story. Meanwhile, like the original DM for this adventure, like I can just imagine being, it's like, I didn't think they'd do it. I didn't think they'd do it. I don't know what I'm going to do now.
So I am curious. So Vecna, famously unkillable, he keeps coming back. No matter how many times we teach him this lesson, old man, he always comes back. You don't have to answer if it's spoilery, but how does Vecna come back in this story?
Right. So Vecna, when we last met Vecna was a god. Vecna was a god on Greyhawk and has just kind of been lurking out there. He's listed as a god in several publications in D&D 3rd and 4th and 5th. As the god of secrets. He was demigod first, and then he became a full god in Greyhawk. And so he has been hanging around for decades and decades, literally millennia, but in the campaign setting, most recently, decades and decades, trying to figure out how to gain more power. And that is really the common through line of all of Vecna's motivations throughout the years, is that he always wants more. He sees himself as the supreme being of the universe, and the only reason that he isn't god of everything and everything bows to him is because it just hasn't happened yet. He is inevitable, like some very famous villains in pop culture history. So Vecna has been working on a plan for a long time in the background, as it turns out, and this plan has been going for time untold before the characters are even involved in this adventure. And the adventure goes a little bit into the backstory of what Vecna has been doing, but essentially Vecna has been using his cults that are based in all campaign settings on all planes of existence to gather power from secrets and funnel them to him so that he can create a ritual to remake the multiverse as he sees fit. And cool. Needless to say, that is not a very good vision of reality if he gets his way.
It's very cool. It's very cool. You made some allusions to a certain villain, and from previous interviews and stuff that you've been on, I get the impression that a lot of inspiration did come from the Avengers of D&D. Like, we have these famous wizards who are coming together from different settings to sort of recruit the players. You have to find these different pieces of a special artifact in order to defeat Vecna. Is that accurate to say that you guys did kind of pull some inspiration from that?
I don't think the actual plot bits take inspiration from anything that's already out there,
for sure.
What we're alluding to. But I do think that it did signal to us that the audience was ready and that the pop culture was very accepting of these really wide multiverse spanning narratives, right? Multiverses are in all kinds of media at this point, all the way from comic books to films based on comic books, and then films that are not based on comic books, but are just written as multiversal pieces. And so I just think that the sort of pop culture literacy is really there and is ready for D&D to embrace that style of storytelling. what better way when we decided we wanted to do a 20th level adventure that went to multiple campaign settings to create a narrative that brought in some of those touchstones that the audience would be familiar with now and would be ready to be excited about. And that's what we're hopeful for.
This does feel like a really strong culmination of many of the products that have been coming out over the past year.
We got Eberron. We got Returning to Avernus, to the Descent into Avernus. We've got
Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse.
Yeah, Planescape was definitely... Planescape in a lot of ways feels kind of like a precursor for this whole thing.
100%. No, yeah. That's exactly what I'm asking. It's like, it isn't like, oh, this book is coming out of nowhere. I feel like the past year's worth of releases have all been leading up to this.
Do you know what? I love that you mentioned those specific 3 books. You mentioned Eberron, Descent to Avernus, and Planescape. Those are all 3 settings that you go to in this book. And what is even more notable, I think, is that some of the locations will be familiar to players and DMs as well. There are places that are brand new locations that are set in those campaign worlds, but some of the places where you go have shown up in other publications. So Ravenloft is a place that you go in this book. That's where one of the pieces of the artifact you're trying to reassemble is located. The actual location that you have to infiltrate and retrieve the piece is Death House, which is a dungeon that is, in Curse of Strahd, and we actually repurpose that map and do a little bit of tinkering with it.
I have flashbacks.
But and that's exactly the kind of experience that we hope that players and DMs are really excited for. Things that they've experienced before, seen in a new light, and in some ways being much more ominous than they were before because the stakes for failure are so much higher.
That's going to be an amazing experience. Like, think about, you have a player, maybe you have 2 players at your table who have played through Ravenloft. They've had that experience. They know the space. I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but your adventures, I think, are starting at level 10. Is that accurate?
That is true, yes.
Okay. And so your adventurers have also seen a thing or two. So there's a very real and viable way to tell the story of both as a player and my character maybe have been to this space, may be familiar with it. And now we're experiencing it with the rest of the party where legitimately the other players and the other player characters have not. And that's going to be really cool storytelling when you're hitting these spaces. I don't know. I'm stoked.
Yeah, me too.
I love the idea that some player character might end up being the back in my day and warning off these new player characters about what's actually in some of these places where you're going.
Yeah, it does in many ways feel like a celebration of everything that we've been through in the last 10 years, I think. Yeah, it's been 10 years since it came out.
It came out in 2014. That was
10 years ago. It was 10 years ago.
Just the hair turns white instantly.
It just falls out. That's actually what happens.
Do you feel old yet? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know I do. Anyway, but yeah, it's sort of like a celebration of 5th edition in and of itself, which feels like kind of a trend with Vecna, because Vecna in the past has been sort of the harbinger of edition changes. And is that kind of what you guys were going? Like, did you know? Well, I know you haven't been with WotC all that long, but was there talks that this had been kind of like an idea that we were going to do Vecna at the end of 5th edition, that this was just something that was going to happen?
Not really so much like at the end of an edition or the change of an edition, but more, we know that this is a milestone for 5th edition because we're reissuing the core rulebooks and bringing D&D into the future with, a whole bunch of new player-facing things that the community is excited about. But we definitely talked about wanting to have a really big splash of an adventure that goes up to 20th level, that hits all of these multiversal places for the celebration of the 50th anniversary. And once the timing lined up that the core books were coming out around that same time as well, it all sort of coalesced into this big 50th anniversary celebration, but also this reminder that D&D is, we hope, going to survive far into the future for many, many years to come. And if we're creating this adventure that, tells these really big stories and participates in the conversation of 50 years of D&D lore and brings a lot of things into sort of a new era, that this is something that would be evergreen going forward for the rules. Even if little things change here and there, this is going to be something that will still be of interest to players. Maybe in another 10 years, hopefully more. That would be something that I think would fulfill the goal.
So we've talked about some of the locations that have already been hit in adventures in 5e. this is the first time that we're seeing Greyhawk in official 5e product. Greyhawk has been around for a super long time, like the Castle Greyhawk box set. Was that OD&D or was that first edition AD&D? I honestly don't know the timeline.
I think that was OD&D. But I
think that was OD&D. I think that was late OD&D.
So like super classic setting. I can't definitively say most, but I would wager money that most people playing D&D today have never been to Greyhawk. What can we expect?
Well, we have had some adventures that have taken place in Greyhawk, but you are correct that there's not been a lot about Greyhawk that's been put out there for, a number of reasons, largely because, the adventure content doesn't have a lot of lore in there. But there's a lot that exists that you can pull from Greyhawk that hasn't really been capitalized on that much in 5th edition that I think fans like yourself are really interested in seeing kind of come to the forefront. I was definitely aware of that. I was definitely aware that everything I knew about Greyhawk came from earlier editions of D&D and that the canon was just kind of sitting there sort of ripe for new adventure content to take place in there and a little bit, more storytelling to take place in there. And so we do set a significant part of this book. One of the pieces of the Rod of Seven Parts is in Greyhawk. We talk a lot about historical Greyhawk locations. The history of Vecna is very important, extremely important even to the story of this adventure, not only the backstory, but also what takes place during the adventure. And so a lot of allusions are made to historical Greyhawk information, the fabled story of Vecna and his arch rival Kaz, and the fight that took Vecna's hand and his eye and banished Kaz to Ravenloft and destroyed Vecna for a short period of time till he had to regenerate. Like, all of that is very relevant to the story, and we talk about all of that. And we don't expect our fans to have known all of that. We don't expect them to have played that. We don't expect them to be familiar with anything, right? Because there will be new fans who are like the art and pick it up and decide that this is a cool thing. So all that information is presented in the book with a whole bunch of art. There's a character dossier in the back of the book to explain who these important characters are. Some of those important characters show up in the adventure. Some of them are very significant to the adventure. But we do a lot of Greyhawk material. So if you're a fan of Greyhawk, and if you're a fan of any of the classic settings that show up in this book, there's a lot of stuff like that is going to be for you, that's collected in a single place.
You mentioned some obviously big name characters like Cass and stuff like that. And I know that this is, again, kind of bringing back some major figures from D&D. Like, I know that it's been teased we're going to meet with Mordenkainen, Tasha, Lyral Silverhand.
Illustrial Silverhand. Sorry to interrupt you.
My mistake. I got that wrong. Come at me on Twitter.
Good. But we're not the first person to assume that it's Lyral. It is her sister, Illustrial, who is from the Greyhawk novels, Ed Greenwood's Greyhawk novels from the 80s, 90s.
I have egg on my face.
I was a huge fan of Illustrial growing up, and so that is, let's be real, that's the reason she's in this book.
That's fair. Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's a good reason.
But what other sort of big names that haven't been around for a while are you guys bringing back into this book, and why should players be excited to meet them?
Yeah, so lots of big names, like you said. The ones you all mentioned are in there: Tasha, Mordenkainen, Illustrial Silverhand. Those are the Wizards 3, which is another callback to D&D history. Ed Greenwood had a column in, I believe, Dungeon Magazine, in which the Wizards 3 would meet. It was usually Elminster and some combination of other powerful wizards, but that's our version of the Wizards 3, are those 3. They're in there throughout almost the entire book, except for the very beginning. They're there. We also have got Strahd is in there, although he has shown up in 5th edition quite a bit. Lord Soth is in there for a little bit. He's also shown up in 5th edition more recently. Miska the Wolf Spider is another deep cut that you may or may not recognize, who hasn't shown up in any recent products or mentions.
Nope.
He's in there, and that's an interesting thing if you know the Rod of Seven Parts history. Those are tied together.
Well, he's tied with the Queen of Chaos, right? Does she make an appearance
correct.
As well? Or
we mentioned her very, very briefly, but she does not make an appearance in the book.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry, we're talking about spiders. That's all.
So I had to look this one.
Tyler, famously afraid of spiders, does not like them.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, Tyler.
No. It's great, and we're very excited about it.
I saw the WizKids mini of the spider dragon, and then you commented saying that you had designed that, and I'm like,
yep.
Amanda, I thought we were cool.
Oh no. Yeah. There are a lot of spiders, and one thing that I've seen some folks pick up on that I will be happy to confirm is that Loth is mentioned pretty significantly in this book as well. And Loth is actually an ally of Vecna in this.
Oh,
I can see that for them. Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, Tyler, I don't think you're going to be able to get through this game, man.
He's a champion. Look at him.
Look, I'll just Skyrim it. Everything is bears.
There you go. That is perfect. That's a perfect solution.
Teeth. Yeah, Miska the wolf bear.
Yep.
Okay, so Miska the wolf spider. Like, I consider myself pretty up on D&D lore. I've said this before on the podcast. I have missed many cultural touchstones because I was busy doing D&D stuff. So, like, I think I know the lore reasonably well. I had never heard of Miska the wolf spider until I was studying for this podcast episode. I can't imagine I'm the only one who's never heard the name. So who is this wolf spider person?
Miska the wolf spider is a demon lord whose references date all the way back in the lore to the Blood War, which is a war between the primordials and the celestials as well. So it's like, good versus evil, essentially, right? The Blood War was a massive war fought in the Abyss that pitted, massive armies against each other. And Miska the wolf spider was the leader of the evil army of the demons, and they were winning. They were overrunning the celestials. They were starting to warp sort of the fabric of that plane of existence. And then the Wind Lords, the Vati, who are traditionally neutral beings, they fashioned an artifact called the Rod of Law. And the Rod of Law they used to imprison Miska the wolf spider in a demi-plane. And they did it successfully, and it essentially turned the tide of the Blood War, and the goodly forces won the day. But Miska the wolf spider stayed imprisoned in this, and is still imprisoned as far as anybody else is concerned. And when he was imprisoned with the Rod of Law split into 7 pieces that were spontaneously scattered all throughout the multiverse, and then that artifact became known as the Rod of 7 Parts. And that is the rod that you were trying to rebuild to stop Vecna, or to at least weaken him enough so that the characters can banish him while he's doing his ritual.
Got it. Okay.
Nice.
So Miska getting out. Bad thing, I assume?
Miska, he's really bad. We have stats for him. They're 5th edition stats for him. Wow. You might fight him. You don't want to fight him, probably. Player characters can fight him, though. There are a series of events that happen in the adventure in which he might actually be something that the characters have to fight. And that is very, very late in the adventure. He is a big, chunky boy.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, so he did serve the Queen of Chaos, who was in charge of the demons before Demogorgon took over. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, and if the Demogorgon is strong, and Miska is implied to be stronger, oh boy, that's not going to be fun. That's not going to be fun. That's not going to be fun at all. He was one of
several high-level stat blocks that we created specifically for this book. Another one being Illustrial Silverhand, who is a very high-level wizard.
I'm so excited.
All right.
I'm so excited.
I love the idea. It's like we have these 3 powerful wizards who have gathered together. It's like, you people, you look bored and I'm busy. I need you to save the multiverse.
It's a little bit more fateful than that. Yeah, so that is certainly a way that you could play it as the DM, but the story unfolds in that the Wizards 3, Illustrial has, sort of seen the writing on the wall. She's very attuned to the weave and the various other forces of magic throughout the multiverse, and she knows something is horribly, horribly wrong and something bad is about to happen. And through the course of her researching and sending out diplomats and sort of spies throughout the multiverse, she discovers that Vecna is up to something, and he's up to something really big. And so she calls in the cavalry, who are her powerful allies. And that is Mordenkainen and Tasha, and they answer that call. And the 3 of them get together, and they cannot figure out what Vecna exactly is doing. They only know that he is trying to literally change the entire multiverse, remake the whole multiverse. They don't know where he is. They don't know how he's doing it. So what they do is they cast a wish spell. And the wish spell is intended to slow down Vecna or to reveal his location so they can go get him or to stop him. And what happens is that none of those things occur, but the player characters are shunted into Sigil, which is where Illustrial Silverhand has set up her base of operations.
Please provide me with a solution to my problems, and then all of a sudden, bloop.
Yeah, exactly. And so the player characters who are metaphysically tied to Vecna because of events of the first chapter of the book, the wizards then, especially Illustrial, really sees that as the universe is telling me that these people are the answer to this problem. And so Plan B kicks into action, which is Mordenkainen standing up and saying, hey, in my research of magic and my obsession with artifacts and items, I know where the first piece of the Rod of Seven Parts is. And this might actually be the only thing that can be strong enough to weaken Vecna enough to banish him. They've got a little special magic item that's like casting a banishment spell once he's been weakened down to a certain part. And so then he says, well, if you get the first piece of the Rod of Seven Parts, it will show you the way to the next piece and then the next piece and the next piece. And if you do that as fast as possible, we will try to figure out where Vecna is located and then we'll all go march against him. And that's the impetus for the majority of the book up until things go wrong.
All right. I'm in. I'm motivated. Yeah. I'm ready. I'm going to save the multiverse.
It sounds so exciting already. So Tyler mentioned his fear of the spider dragon. What other cool new monsters can you tease us about that's going to be in
no
this?
problem.
Can the new spiders?
The spider dragon. So we'll talk about spider dragon.
Okay.
If that's okay. I don't want to.
Fine. Tell me things. I just don't have to look at a picture.
Right. Okay. I will not be showing pictures today. There will be no visual aids today, kids. The spider dragon is a sacred creature of the goddess of Loath. The cultists who are graced with the presence of a spider dragon see them as chosen creatures, and spider dragons have special abilities to commune with the lower plane, so they can speak directly to Loath. So the spider dragon in the book has got hold of the first piece of the Rod of Seven Parts, and that's where the characters have to go and contend with that creature and figure out how are they going to get that out from the spider dragon's lair, which is, of course, inside a secret safe house of Loth operatives in the Underdark.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. But all of the monsters have a similar sort of raison d'etre, right? They're in the adventure. Each location has got new monsters. So there's like 35 pages of bestiary in the back of the book, and they're all native to one of the planes or one of the settings, and they're in the adventure for a reason, because it makes sense with what's going on in that particular location. We've also got another creature called a false lich, which is a new stat block. And the story of a false lich, it is generically a creature that is created by a lich, imbued with a little bit of the lich's power that is created as a servant for the lich. And because liches are very powerful monsters in their own right, false liches are also pretty powerful, but not quite
Makes sense.
Much. Our specific false lich in this book is called Rirak. And he was created by the Lich Acererak to watch over one of his tombs. And this is the chapter that takes place in Greyhawk.
Okay.
I love that. That his false lich is called Rirak. That's hilarious.
We have Acererak and Rirak. As Greg Tito says, we got Pete and repeat over here.
That's beautiful.
Oh my God. I love it.
Greg said that today. I was like, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Let's steal that.
That's an incredible dad joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is how you do dad jokes, guys. Take notes.
I'll write that down. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I imagine the party showing up, and I've got a bunch of folks who never heard it, never seen it, never listened to our particular podcast episode on the topic, and it's like, this looks like a nice tomb. Why don't we go in and explore? And everybody else is like, no,
don't go, don't do it. It's not worth it.
Hell of horrors.
What if you go and I'll just stay here and not go?
I'll just keep watch outside the tomb. Not going in the tomb.
It's important. Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, this has been built as an epic level adventure. It's the first 5th edition adventure that starts above level 5. So what were some of the challenges? Like, most campaigns end in D&D about like level 11, 12, 13, that range. So what were some of the challenges of doing a full campaign from 10 to level 20?
High-level adventure design has a lot of considerations that you have to pay attention to. Otherwise, the characters are either going to steamroll it or it's going to be impossible. And so the problem that we have with high-level parties is that they're really, really powerful. And that starts, around 8th, 9th level, and then it only escalates up exponentially from there. So we have to start asking ourselves a little bit more complicated questions about what is the problem that the characters are trying to solve, and what are the obstacles that are in their way that prevent them from just, using their raw power, just brute forcing their way through the end, killing the bad guy, and then walking away. I think, Tyler, you had said maybe in an email or the show notes, what is stopping the characters from just teleporting in stabbing Vecna in the kidney and then teleporting out.
Yeah.
Right? So the answer to that is not necessarily to just make the monsters bigger bags of hit points, but it is to make it more interesting and to make it somewhat of a puzzle and a logic challenge as well as an actual combat challenge. So the way that we accomplish that, especially in the higher levels, the much higher levels of the book, is the characters don't know where Vecna is. Part of playing through the last few chapters of the book is to literally find exactly where Vecna is. It is also restricting access to Vecna and to the final set of encounters and the final sets of things that happen in the story. And the way that we did that in this book is that we made it so that the characters are literally the only ones who can stop this threat. The characters become tied to Vecna when they interrupt at the very beginning of the adventure a cult of Vecna performing a ritual to extract secrets from some kidnapped nobles. And unbeknownst to the characters, they won't find out till later. When they do that, there's a whole bunch of things that happen in the adventure in which there's a magical backlash from the cult's tie to Vecna that shunts the characters into the Shadowfell, and so they have to navigate Evernight to get back to Neverwinter. They have to find a crevice of dusk, which is the sort of entryway that gets them back to the material plane. But it also ties them to Vecna. It bestows upon them something we call a Vecna's link. And Vecna's link manifests in them sometimes hearing whispers of Vecna's thoughts, sometimes seeing visions of Vecna's plans and Vecna's future, sometimes seeing little glimpses of Vecna's past. But also it gives them an inkling of a tie to that power that Vecna has over secrets. So we actually included in the book something called the Power of Secrets subsystem, in which when the characters find out secrets from the individual NPCs that they interact with, they can expend those secrets as a mechanical element and receive either a benefit in combat for the whole party, or they can save and bank those secrets and they can use them in their final confrontation with Vecna. And it has a significant mechanical impact. So, but only the characters have that. They're the only characters in the entire multiverse who have Vecna's link because of this random twist of fate and this random mission that they have been hired to do by Lord Neverember in Neverwinter. And they don't even necessarily know why this has happened to them, but they're the ones who can stop Vecna. They have to use Vecna's link to dismantle some of the things Vecna has already accomplished on his way to finishing this ritual. And then they're the only ones who can access that inner sanctum area where Vecna is to confront him. And once they do, there's a whole bunch of different encounter and terrain considerations. There's like sort of difficulty in figuring out kind of how to navigate this space while they're actually trying to fight a literal god. And so those are ways that we make the adventure still challenging to 20th level characters. They can't, just walk in, stab him. They have got to go through an entire journey before they can even get to the final boss.
No, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah, like if we present Vecna to give speeches, who knows what the players are going to do, and they're actually high enough level, they might be able to pull something off. So the right answer being is like, we're going to hold them for the end. We're going to hold them for the end, then we'll let things get spicy. I want to ask a question. I feel like over the years, especially the latter half of 5e, a lot of the content produced for DMs, it's really helped folks run better games. There's been better information about how to run a table, how to run a save table, how to keep folks happy, comfortable. I feel like we've noticed, and we've talked on the podcast, monster stats in some ways are getting simpler to run. Folks would open up a stat block and read like, okay, I've got a caster and I've got these spells and I have these things. And now we're saying like, okay, no, just 3 times a day you can do this, 2 times a day you could do this. You can do this at will. Here's your action space. Let's go. For maybe a DM who's run a few games and you're looking at this and it's like, I'm starting with my player characters at level 10 and I'm starting with monsters at a complexity of 10 and I'm going to 20. What are some things that you did? What are some design decisions that are going to allow maybe a newer DM to approach this and put on a good show for their table?
That's a really good question. So this is definitely an adventure that you probably want to have DM'd at least a couple of times before you run it, or, sort of at least maybe do a couple dry runs of some of the encounters if you haven't run high level play before. But we definitely pay a lot of attention to, like you said, complexity creep, which is absolutely a problem. 5th edition is very, very known and does a very good job at keeping things simple. But as you get up to higher levels, there's only so simple that things can be. Things can only be so simple. We pay attention to that. We try to make the maps pretty streamlined because a thing that I see with designers a lot is that they want to throw the kitchen sink in the map and make it as complicated and cool looking and complex as possible. But that doesn't work when you are a DM and you are trying to run 3 different monsters who all have got, 5 different types of actions, and you come up with analysis paralysis and you struggle, right? And we don't want people to feel like they're struggling or like that the game is too difficult or that it's not something that, they're going to have fun doing. So we simplify the maps, we simplify the encounters. In some ways, the structure of the adventure is very simple. It is just a MacGuffin hunt. I mean, I'm not trying to pull the wool, off of everybody's eyes and go, oh my God, you just did this very simple thing. But it is narratively very, very much, there's a lot going on in between the chapters during the places where the characters have to go to get each piece of the rod. But at the end of the day, it is go get 7 MacGuffins and then come back and decide how you're going to handle the bad guy. And then things in the plot go wrong in the interim, but that's what it boils down to.
It's a simple way to do it, and it's effective. Finding a MacGuffin is a classic for a reason, and I think it's a good way to keep people focused and makes things simple for the DM and the players to have like a specific goal.
Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past was literally like the first half of the game was one MacGuffin hunt. The second half of the game, the same MacGuffin hunt, but they just changed the colors.
Yeah. And honestly, especially with higher level adventures or with games, I feel like the simpler that overarching meta plot is, the more that the characters and the players can focus on the really interesting stories that are happening within that larger meta plot. And they can really focus on the fact that Vecna is a scary villain and there are things going on making it very clear that Vecna is not interested in these little peons who think that they can try to stop him. He's just going to do this unless you stop him from doing it. And I think that's kind of the core conceit that makes this threat really scary.
Building time pressure, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but like finding good ways to build time pressure and push to make that trade-off of like, you could long rest. There's nothing that's going to stop you from long rest, except for maybe the end of the world, if that's that's what you want to do. And as a DM, finding ways to keep that pressure, make them go into some situations a little bit more resource constrained, can actually produce some of the most fun moments in a campaign because they made the right choice. And then I think the follow-up to that is just finding ways to reward players when they do make that choice to do things the hard way, to make it, besides not dying. That's one reward, but I think we can go further.
If possible, don't die.
Yeah, step 1.
Yes.
Don't recommend it.
Planescape, die a little bit. Eve of Ruin, less death. We need you alive.
We have
All
a
right.
lot of magic, okay? Just get in there.
That's fair. We're high level. Yeah.
Yeah, you start the game with Ray's dead.
And you might need it. I mean, it might be a thing.
I mean,
Get rated on speed dial.
Planescape was already throwing challenges at the players that were designed to kill them. So yeah. I'm glad that 5e is embracing the encouraging of killing your players multiple times. Because, it's what makes the game fun.
It's like, here's the deal, Mordenkainen. I'm willing to take on this quest. I'm going to need 6 diamonds the size of your face.
Yeah.
Can you get me 6 diamonds?
100%.
Please.
So we've talked about monsters. We've talked about big NPCs folks are going to meet. We've talked about some cool places that people are going to go. Are there cool magic items that the players are going to find? Like, sure, we're looking for the rod of 7 parts and you're going to assemble that. And I assume you're going to slap someone with your 7-sectioned rod.
Legendary items?
Any cool loot? Like, yeah. Do we get legendary items? Like, do we get to wield artifacts?
Ooh, gosh, I love that you asked those questions. So there are not a whole ton of new magic items in this book, but there are new magic items, and the ones that are in there are biggins. They are big and important to the plots. Some I'm not going to talk about because I want people to find that out themselves.
I'm so excited.
But some are pretty cool. I mentioned before, there's a magic item called a Chime of Banishing, which is a magic item that is from Illustrial Silverhand's personal collection, and it is part of this backup plan to fight Vecna. It only works on creatures that are of a certain power level or under, meaning that characters and creatures that are higher than that need to be weakened down to a certain threshold before that they can, try to use this magic item on them. But, even though it is meant to be the item that hopefully the characters are able to successfully use in their plan, it is also an item that they have throughout the entire adventure that could come into play when there are some really powerful outsiders that can be banished to other planes of existence. I foresee some discussions at the table when the characters are trying to banish a creature that may or may not actually be native to that plane, and then the DM having to figure out where they want to put that creature as it's been banished, because I'm a big old jerk, and if somebody wants to try to banish a demon that is on, say, Pandemonium, but it's actually from Pandemonium, then I would just be like, oop, okay, it's behind you now.
It's like the next time they open a door, it's waiting.
Nice try. Yeah.
I'm already running into that problem in Planescape. Amanda, don't do this to me.
I don't think it's going to be like an every single session thing, but it will be interesting to see if characters see that as a really go-to item, or if it's, they're just trying to keep it till the end.
Ash is running out of places to hide the bodies.
Yes. Yes, I am. And my cleric won't die.
Yeah.
I keep trying.
Just hang in there.
Trying to kill him, but he won't die.
Just introduce him to Eve of Ruin. Like 5 minutes. They're going to Death House.
Let's just power word kill him. That's what I have to do. I just have to power word kill him.
Yeah. I mean, at first you don't succeed. Kill, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So for players going into Eve of Ruin, a lot of folks, this is going to be their first time doing high level play. Like a lot of adventures, like we called out earlier, a lot of the official adventures end somewhere 11, 12, 13. So for a lot of folks, like if you've never finished one of those adventures, TPK'd, game ended, whatever, you may not have even made it to level 10. So for players who are playing at high levels for the first time, what's some advice that you can give folks to prepare themselves for the adventure?
I would say that it's a good idea because characters do start to get more complicated. You start to get more options. You're not just dealing more damage, but you have a wider array of a suite of abilities in most cases. I would say, whereas when you play D&D, a lot of times at lower levels, you make your character and then you kind of never really go back over that character, and you sort of develop the way that you play that character for the first 4 or 5 levels. And you don't, go back and read your character sheet. I would say go back and review that character sheet before every session so that you know exactly what you can do, because you never know when there's going to be some ability that you thought was not going to be useful to you in this combat, and it turns out that it is very useful. That's a big piece of advice I can give. But also, the DMs and players just sort of be graceful with each other. Like you're saying, in the instance where they've not played at high level before, or maybe the DM hasn't DM'd at high level before, just give yourself the space to say, as a player, like, oh no, I should have done this or that, and ask your DM, can we retcon this, within reason, right? Not every single time, but same thing with the DMs, right? It's never a bad idea. Nobody's going to come and give you a demerit like you're at a summer camp if you're the DM and you go, oh, I should have remembered that the monster can do this, or the monster had this resistance that I didn't realize, and so you shouldn't have had this much damage. That kind of stuff, like I feel like that's even more permissible at high level because it's just very understandable.
Yeah, and I believe that.
Thank you, Wing Lady, for doing that shameless pitch. Read our handbooks at RPGBot so that you know how to level your character.
There we go. Yeah, that too.
If you feel like you're having analysis paralysis building your character, I don't know which choice to make. I don't know what's going to be most impactful, meaningful, help me support the party. There's a link in the show notes, but the link is actually just RPGBOT.net.
Yeah.
Nice.
Shameless plug compete.
It's not shameless. It's your podcast.
It's a little shameful. It's fine. All right, Amanda, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun. I'm really glad to talk with you about this.
I know I enjoyed it.
I did
Where
too.
can folks find you on social media?
I am kind of on X, kind of not. But that's where you can find me.
All been there.
At Amanda Hamon, yes.
Well, I'm sorry. What is this X you speak of? I've never heard of this X.
It's Twitter. We still all just call it Twitter.
I understand what you're talking about now.
Yeah. My Twitter is largely me and my husband trying to make each other laugh. And our friends.
It's really cute. They're really cute together.
We have to sometimes check ourselves because we'll type up something and be like, is this too inappropriate?
Nah, it's Twitter. It's never inappropriate.
Yeah, if there's anything Twitter's famous for, it's not being inappropriate. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. It's true. But we both have our company names in our bio, so we don't have a lot of plausible deniability.
That's fair, 100%.
Enough.
It's like Twitter's new tagline, and then it got worse.
And then it got worse.
So freaking true, man. So freaking true.
If you've enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcast and rate us on Spotify or your favorite podcast app. It's a quick, free way to support the podcast and helps us to reach new listeners. you'll find links in the show notes. You'll find affiliate links for source books and other materials linked in the show notes, as well as on RPGBOT.net. Following these links helps us to make this show happen every week. If your question should be the question of the week next week, please email podcast@RPGBOT.net or message us on Twitter at RPGBOT.net. Please also consider supporting us on Patreon, where you can find all kinds of great rewards. At any tier, you'll get early access to RPGBOT content and polls for future content. At our $3 tiers, you'll enjoy your choice of ad-free access to RPGBOT.net or ad-free podcast episodes and access to live-streamed podcast recordings. At our $5 tiers and above, you'll get all of that, plus access to the RPGBOT.Discord. You'll find us at patreon.com/RPGBOT.
All right, Amanda, I have to ask, have you heard of the head of Vecna?
Yes, I have. The head of Vecna.
Okay. I'm sorry. What?
Like,
I swear I've told this story on the podcast.
No,
group of adventurers.
I don't listen.
Group of
yeah. When you talk, Tyler, I just kind of tune out.
It's like that Charlie Brown thing. Like,
wait. Oh, I thought you were. I might not know what you're talking about because I thought you were talking about there's an adventure where all of the parts of Vecna are like titles of the cultists. Is that what you're talking about?
No. Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Now I both want you to tell the story, though.
I don't know that one, so you're going to have to tell that story in a second. A group of adventurers goes into a dungeon. It's Vecna-themed adventure. DM's running it. They go into a dungeon, and they find what is purported to be the disembodied head of Vecna on a pedestal. And the rumor around the item is you take off your own head, put on the head of Vecna, and you'll gain the powers of Vecna, like the full deity powers.
That is schmuck bait if I've ever heard it.
Like a very, very short haircut. So
you have
first character takes off their head, has the next character put it on, doesn't work. That character says, "Oh, it'll work for me." Has the third character take off their head, do the same thing, doesn't work. Third character has the fourth character do the same. 3 characters are dead. The 4th character says, "Well, obviously this was a trap," loots the bodies and leaves.
I mean, I'm just surprised it took 3 people for them to realize that it was schmuck bait.
It's one of those
players.
Yeah. It's one of those internet stories like the Dread Gazebo thing. It's like, I don't know if this is true.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
It's fun to repeat,
I don't buy it, but it is funny.
Yes, okay. Okay, this is sounding familiar now. All right.
So
I want to hear yours, though.
Yeah.
Well, it's not so much a story of playing in a game as it is in, I believe it's Die Vecna Die.
Okay.
The different body parts of Vecna are actually the ranks of people in the cult, and so the wizards, I think, are the teeth of Vecna, for example, and it goes all the way down to like the finger of Vecna.
Okay.
It just definitely gets a little bit weird. And earlier editions of D&D have had other parts of Vecna listed as artifacts as well. So there's a canon reason why these guys, and it just raises all these questions of like, well, did these ranking cultists, did they like symbolically sever one of their own fingers and replace it with the finger of a dead person? Because it wouldn't be a Vecna because he's only got 10 of them, unless there's some factory out there that's pumping out like real replica Vecna parts.
No,
that's funny.
There's a magic solution to this, though, right? Like, we can get pinkies back.
Regenerate spells. Just regenerate spells over and over. There's somebody out there who's like, a Vecna clone who's put on one of the body parts, like the eyelash of Vecna.
That's funny because
you
sorry.
That on.
Yeah, no, that's funny. I didn't know about any of that, but I had been toying with this idea of the 4 fingers of Vecna as being like 4 elite agents that each sort of correspond to one of the 4 fingers, like finger of judgment, finger of insult, finger of loyalty, finger of what is it? No, finger of promise. Finger of promise. That's what it is. But the reason why there's only 4 fingers is because there was originally a 5th finger, which was Kos. That was the idea I came up with. But yeah, no, that's cool. I like that. That's fun.
I also like the idea that Kos is just like a thumb. Just a thumb in Vecna's side.
Because it's kind of the leader, most important part of the hand, but it also can be used as an insult.
That's true. That's a good one. Yes.
It's opposable.
It is opposable.
All right.
I bite my thumb at you, sir.
Oh, that seems like it would taste really bad.
Fair.
I bite my thumb and then I spit. Not because I'm insulting you, because that's just nasty.
Yeah, pretty much. Especially in medieval times when they were doing that. I don't want to know where that thumb's been, to be honest.
I want to see a recreation of the Romeo and Juliet scene where Mercutio is biting his thumb.
I do not bite my thumb at you, sir, but I do bite my thumb.
Yeah.
Man, we've had Shakespeare come up on the last 5 episodes. Are we getting fancy?
No, it's because you have me, a theater nerd. Okay, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, what took you so long, man?
Yeah, it took 2 years to warm up. That's all.
All right,
Romeo and Juliet and zombies.